Monday's failure of the PSLV C-62 mission has been called a major setback. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. There are many reasons for this. I think the foremost is that the PSLV has been rightly described as ISRO's workhorse and has successfully carried out many missions for the organization, and in fact has laid the foundation for its as well as ISRO's reputation for reliability, for dependability. So when that so that has been sort of slightly dented or damaged right now, and it's actually a very big blow. The people who are responsible are the people who head ISRO, the Department of Space, and the Prime Minister's office.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. Monday's failure of ISRO's PSLV rocket is the second successive back-to-back failure in just 8 months. So today we ask, how serious a setback is this and what will be the likely consequences? Those are the key issues I shall discuss with the science editor of the Hindu newspaper, Vasudevan Mukunth. Vasudevan Mukunth, Monday's failure of the PSLV C-62 mission has been called a major setback. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. There are many reasons for this. I think the foremost is that the PSLV has been rightly described as ISRO's workhorse and has successfully carried out many missions for the organization, and in fact has laid the foundation for its as well as ISRO's reputation for reliability, for dependability. So when that so that has been sort of slightly dented or damaged right now, and it's actually a very big blow because of the kind of failure that seems to have occurred. Because with PSLV C-61, which was the previous mission, the first of these two to fail, which happened in May 2025, it suffered a sort of anomaly or a glitch in so the rocket is made of 4 stages, and it suffered an anomaly in its 3rd stage. And the same 3rd stage seems to have been the problem with the second failed mission as well. So this sort of repetition is a sign that there is a deeper issue, because the PSLV is a mature rocket. It had its first developmental flight in 1993, and since then its technologies, its various components, they're all in a mature state of operation. So something failing twice with the same thing within a year of each other, that speaks to, I would say, deeper fundamental problems.
Let's go into some of the issues that you've raised. As you pointed out, this is the second successive failure of a PSLV rocket. The previous failure was in May 2025, which is just 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And as you also pointed out, the PSLV is ISRO's workhorse rocket. Does this second successive failure raise worrying questions about the PSLV's reliability?
I would certainly think so, because, as I said, the rocket has a reputation of being reliable. If you look at previous launches, and if you look at the media coverage, and as well as what ISRO officials and senior political leaders have said about these PSLV launches, which is that that it's a workhorse, and that the launch was it was a textbook launch. That is something that has often been said about PSLV launches, because this is a vehicle that ISRO understands very well and that has been operating reliably for a long time now as launch vehicles go. It has a success rate that is 94 to 95%, if I remember correctly. And that is very commendable, but that is also exactly what is in question right now. And it is also deepened by the fact that these two successive failures have occurred due to problems with the same component of the rocket, which is the third stage motor. So, and that is a mature technology, something that ISRO, made sense of, tested, figured out how it works, figured out all of its kinks a long time ago. And for it to suddenly fail in 2 missions in a row within a year, that is worrying.
Now, as you said, both in May last year and again on Monday, the problem arose during the third stage of the flight when the rocket was attempting to get into orbit around the Earth. Could it be the case that the same problem has occurred again? And if that is the case, how embarrassing would it be for ISRO if the same problem happened twice?
I would certainly say, again, I have to be clear that, I'm sorry, not again, but I have to be clear that we don't exactly know what has happened, because, so after, a major mission failure, or I would say a mission failure, it has been ISRO's habit and protocol to to constitute what is called a Failure Analysis Committee, FAC. And the FAC consists of technical experts who go into the details of the mishap, collect all the data that they can, and they put together a report, and they file that report with the Prime Minister's office. And the PMO then clears the report, after which details from the report are published. ISRO website, statements, so basically placed in the public domain. So after the PSLV C-61 failure in May last year, the ISRO Chairman V. Narayanan, he put together an FAC, and the FAC submitted its report to the Prime Minister's office in August 2025. The problem is the PMO has not cleared the report yet, which means the contents of the report are unknown. And in this time, ISRO has also not said what went wrong with the PSLV C-61. It has at best provided minor indications. So to be able to say, I don't know if there is currently information available. I don't think that there is information available at present to say that what exactly went wrong with PSLV C-61 also went wrong with PSLV C-62. But what we can say is that both failures were rooted in the failure of the third stage.
But then two things are apparent, aren't they? First of all, in both cases, C-61 and C-62, the problem happened in the third stage.
Yeah.
And it could either be the same problem that's occurred twice, or if it's a different problem, that's equally worrying, because it means that there are two things that are wrong with the third stage, which are going bad.
There is a third possibility as well. And again, without seeing the FAC report, I would say all of them are equally likely at this time. The third possibility is that in their efforts to patch what went wrong with PSLV C-61, they may have created a new problem which they may not have anticipated. So one of the things that experts are saying is that because the PSLV third stage because the PSLV itself is a mature launch vehicle and its technologies are all mature as well, it cannot be sort of some technological detail that ISRO got wrong, but rather that the components that the third stage uses, ISRO has not been able to assure their quality. ISRO has not been able to confirm their quality, that they have been manufactured to the required specifications before installing them on the rocket.
If, as you suggested, could be the case, in correcting the first problem of May 2025, they've created a new problem that occurred in Monday. Is that a case of bad luck? Is it a case of carelessness? Is it a case of incompetence?
Bad luck, carelessness, incompetence. Bad luck does not qualify because when you're operating at this level, you don't get to make that excuse. Carelessness or incompetence, I cannot say. Nobody can without looking at the FAC report. Yeah.
Now, as you said, that FSA report was lodged with the Prime Minister's office, but it was not made public. The Prime Minister's office hasn't cleared it.
Yeah.
With hindsight, was it a mistake not to make it public so that independent experts could review the findings? That hasn't happened.
That has not happened. You're right. Was it a mistake? That is, I would say, a very charitable way of looking at it. I wouldn't. I personally do not think that. I mean, many signs point to the possibility that there could be deeper reasons because. So, ISRO
You're suggesting that there could be something that is being hidden.
It is possible, and let me say why. Because in the past there have been more high-profile missions. I think the GSLV F10 comes to mind. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was 2021, and that mission was not a success. There was a failure, and the ISRO chairman put together an FAC which submitted its report. So usually the full raw technical report that is not published, or that is not, at least not circulated widely. But usually what ISRO has done is publicize salient details from the report. So after the GSLV F10, based on the report, there was in fact a detailed note on the ISRO website. I think it's still up. If you look on the website, you will find it, where it goes into sort of considerable detail about what went wrong. You know, there was an issue with the valve, there was an issue with the seal, and this led to this sort of cascading sort of mistakes that rendered the mission a failure. Now, I brought up this example to sort of highlight a circumstance in which ISRO has in the past released important details. And now let me give you an example from the other side of the aisle, which is, I would say, the Chandrayaan-2 mission, where the Vikram lander was supposed to soft land on the moon, but instead it had a hard landing. It crashed, basically. And following that, I do not know if ISRO put together an FAC, but there must have been. The mission was very high profile. But the FAC report, the contents, not even the salient details, not even a summary, made it into the public domain.
This is therefore the second time that an FAC report has not been made public.
At least the second time, I would say, yes.
So this is a worrying tradition being established, because reports like this should be made public. Independent experts should have a chance to review the findings. All of that is being denied. And that once again raises the question, is something being hidden from the Indian public?
I cannot say with any certainty, but I can say that if ISRO had made a habit or had maintained its habit of releasing all the FAC reports, or at least the salient details from all of its reports, then yes, we will be in a better position to assess whether something is being hidden or not. Because
sorry, please carry on. My apologies.
The GSLV F10 was an important mission. It failed. There was an FAC report and details from that were released. But on the other hand, you also have Chandrayaan-2, very high-profile mission, but details from the FAC report were not released. Now, this is the kind of precedent that I'm talking about. With Chandrayaan-2, I can understand, even if I don't agree, that there were reasons, reputation management among them, to not disclose the full contents of the report, or even, so partially. So, but in this case,
you're saying that there were reputation management reasons that could perhaps explain why the report wasn't released. But actually, by not releasing the report, questions are being raised about what is being possibly hidden, and that affects and damages the reputation much more.
From our point of view, yes, but apparently not from theirs.
Now, yesterday, the Indian Express reported that the 3 of the last 6 missions by ISRO have been unsuccessful. And the paper added, this is an unacceptably high failure rate for the agency. Do you share that concern?
I would mostly, yeah, because we need to look at what went wrong with each of these missions. It is certainly not a positive trend in any sense. It is certainly a problem, but I wouldn't go so far as to say what is acceptable or not, because in each case, whether or not the details of the FAC are out, the findings, I have to assume, and I'm happy to assume, that ISRO is doing its best.
But that's an assumption.
Yeah, that is an assumption because, yeah, that is an assumption. And I would even go so far as to admit it's a bias based on its historical record. But I mean, just the fact that each of these missions is highly resource intensive, as spaceflight generally is.
Let me point this out, Mr. Mukunth. In this discussion so far, we've been talking for 12, 13 minutes. We've raised fundamental concerns about the way ISRO functions. The fact that the same problem might have happened twice, or there's a new problem that's happened in the same third stage of the rocket, or the possibility that, in fact, in correcting the first problem, they may have created a second problem. That raises, as we discussed, the possibility, was this carelessness? Was it incompetence? We don't have the answer, but those questions are being raised. Then the Failure Analysis Committee investigation report has not been released, and this has at least twice happened. And that raises the question, is something being hidden? It's worrying that these questions are being asked about ISRO, which is such a valuable and highly regarded organization. Isn't that worrying that ISRO is creating problems, or the government is creating problems for ISRO, which lead to questions being asked which should never be asked?
Absolutely, I agree. And there has been a very noticeable turn from the organization within the last decade or so, in which it has become much less accessible to outside questions, and this includes questions from journalists towards articles that they're writing, stuff like that. Even generally benign stuff. So there is a larger context here, and there is something. I would say none of this is accidental.
In fact, your paper in the Leader that it published yesterday seems to suggest that the responsibility for these questions lies squarely with the ISRO chairman. I want to quote your paper's leader. It says, the tenure of ISRO Chairman V. Narayanan has been characterized by a continued shift away from ISRO's tradition of scientific openness towards a more guarded bureaucratic posture.
Yeah.
What the paper is clearly saying is that this lack of transparency is damaging ISRO's reputation, and the chairman, Mr. Narayanan, is directly responsible.
Yes.
That's a worrying conclusion, isn't it?
I don't know if that is a worrying conclusion. It is a fact, and how he is going to respond to it, that so far has been cause for worry.
So there are clearly questions that Mr. Narayanan has to answer, and those are questions to do with the way he's functioning and the way he's handling the organization.
Yeah, I would think so. Again, there are many unknowns here. I'm not trying to hedge. I'm just saying that there are many unknowns here. But I do know for a fact that the chairman wields a lot of power, and has. Organizationally, the buck stops with him. That's one way of. That aside, it is also a highly centralized organization. So certainly, yes, he is responsible, and he certainly has to answer for why the failure has recurred, and whether it was due to the same mistake, whether the problems are with.
Of course, there is one other organization we could blame for the problems that have arisen as a result of the failure analysis report not being made public, and that is the Prime Minister's office. Because the decision not to make the May 2025 FAC public was the Prime Minister's office. So the Prime Minister's office is also accountable in a sense, and its failure to make that report public is leading to people asking now worrying questions.
Absolutely. No. The people who are responsible are the people who head ISRO, the Department of Space, and the Prime Minister's office.
Let's, against this background, before we end, come to the consequences of Monday's failure. ISRO has, I believe, launched more than 430 satellites from some 34 countries, and it's viewed as one of the most cost-effective, reliable agencies for commercial launches. Now, after two back-to-back successive failures, could foreign companies start thinking twice about using ISRO to launch satellites?
Excuse me. Absolutely, they will have cost too. So, I mean, satellites, manufacturing them, launching them is very expensive business. And if you look at, when you pitch a product, when you pitch a launch vehicle saying that this is very dependable and this is relatively speaking quite accessible, what you're doing is you are making startups, especially younger companies that are just entering the space, which is true in India, by the way, especially true, I would say, because of the recent reforms in the space sector. You're encouraging them to believe that if they have missions that they would like to launch into space, then they should consider the PSLV because the rocket is unlikely to fail, and because again, relatively speaking, it is not very expensive. So
But now people will begin to question that.
exactly. So they will not just question it. It is also, I would say, an embarrassment for ISRO and for the Indian space program, because it has, again, the PSLV has a solid reputation, and that is kind of being undermined right now with all of this secrecy, and that is also damaged. So yes, companies. In fact, if I remember correctly, this was the PSLV C62 was the first PSLV failure that involved customer and foreign satellites rather than state-built satellites.
Which is
That is the
particularly
Indian
worrying
satellite.
because foreign satellites are the customers you want to attract. They bring in good money.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other aspect here is that there is also launch insurance.
Precisely, I was going to come to that.
Yeah,
After two successive back-to-back failures, am I right in saying that international insurers will reassess the PSLV risk profile and insurance premiums could rise appreciably? And if the answer is yes, would that be an additional embarrassment to India's ambition of being a net provider in space?
it is very easy to answer both questions, yes and yes. Um, I don't think there is anything more to say, in fact, because the answer is as simple as that. There is a considerable reputational cost that is being endangered here. And yeah, Karan, there is nothing more to say. In fact, the answer is very simple, yes and yes.
Let me then raise a
Everything you
last
said is
question
true.
with you.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe next year, ISRO's Gaganyaan mission is supposed to put a man in space. Have two consecutive back-to-back failures with the PSLV rocket raised concerns and doubts about the Gaganyaan mission? Or are the two unconnected?
I wouldn't say they're entirely unconnected because it's the same organization behind both of them. I'm not sure Gaganyaan is going to put a man in space next year, but they do have some important test flights that are coming up. I think especially G1, the first of the three major test flights. I think G1 will be a suborbital flight. It will not enter Earth orbit, and I don't think it is going to be a crewed mission. But that being said, the thing is, as I said, ISRO is behind both PSLV and GSLV launches, and but at the same time, ISRO had a successful mission in December, a successful launch, the M6 mission, which involved the launch vehicle Mark III, which is the same rocket that is being qualified right now to carry humans into space as part of Gaganyaan. So they did have that success in December with the M6 mission, and that goes to show that they are getting most of the things right, but they're also getting something fundamental wrong about PSLV. So I wouldn't say that it's kind of out and out problem. There are some positives that we need to weigh together with the negatives.
We've come to the end of this interview. Let me put to you a thought that will have occurred to the audience as they've heard you speak. No doubt there are problems. Maybe there are serious problems that affect the PSLV rocket. But by not being totally transparent and open, additional concerns and doubts are being raised, which can only damage the reputation of ISRO. Transparency in these circumstances would be a virtue.
Absolutely, it would be essential, not even a virtue. There is a lot at stake, even when you're not ferrying humans to space. And it also speaks to a sort of fundamental limitation with the organization itself, something at its roots, where you have some kind of unspecified need to not be able to share the FAC report of what is presumably not such a high profile mission either. So if the government is asking what's there to see, I'm saying what's there to hide. And if you, sorry?
Absolutely, very beautifully put. What is there to hide? And after all, the Indian people have a right to know they are paying for this.
Yeah, absolutely. They're paying for this. And as a civilian space organization, it needs to be publicly accountable. It's nothing less, nothing more. And the more you sort of withdraw from that position, the more it becomes suspicious.
Vasudevan Mukunth, thank you very much for your analysis. Thank you very much for the time you've given me. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.